Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Oh, really? I thought you didn't have the owl.
We don't. We have my laptop.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so first order of business, we do need to have elections, and that didn't make it to the agenda, unfortunately. And as I said previously, if nobody else wants the chair position, then I do encourage people to take the opportunity, if you've never been chair of the planning board before, to at least have, take advantage of the time, chair or vice chair. But if nobody wants to, I'd be more than happy to continue on. Mark also said he was interested in being co-chair unless somebody else would prefer to be co-chair, or excuse me, vice chair, in case somebody would prefer to do that. So we'll start with nominations for chair.
Mary, you want to call the meeting to order?
Yes, Mark?
She did. You want to call the meeting to order?
She did.
I did.
Okay, sorry. I nominate Mary Donaldson for chair.
I will second that.
Okay, any other nominations? No, of course not. Okay, all in favor? Raise your
Everybody,
hand.
is Jay on?
Okay.
Is Jay on the line?
Yes.
Jay is on. Okay, good.
Jay, Jay, go ahead and unmute. Are you in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, motion carried. Now nominations for vice chair.
Go ahead.
I nominate Mark for vice chair.
Second.
Okay, any other nominations? Hearing none, please raise your hands if you're in favor. And Jay, give a voice, okay? Give a...
Aye.
Aye, okay. Nomination carried, okay. All righty, so
Who is the second
moving
for,
on.
for Mary? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't see or hear very well, so,
That was a
And
side
actually-
conversation.
That was a
And
sidebar,
actually,
don't worry.
so I think what I'm going to do is I do want to welcome Rich as an associate member. And so, Rich, just so you know that when we have a full contingent of members here, those are the only members who can vote. If someone is absent, then I appoint one of the associate members to sit in for one of the acting members for voting. However, for all discussions, you are certainly welcome to participate in discussions and to ask questions, and that's certainly welcome to do that, to get a full perspective from everyone on the board.
Okay.
So welcome, and glad you're willing to join us.
Thank you.
Now, Robin, have you been sworn in?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I think and Jay, you were sworn in, right, Jay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to turn this over to Mark to continue because I can't hear very well what's going on. And so you're going to have to rely on Mark. Okay, so go ahead, Mark, and you are in charge for the rest of the meeting.
Got it. Thanks, Mary. So I'd like to start with a roll call by the recording secretary and also identification from the audience members. I'll start with me, Mark Doty, acting chair tonight.
Robin Turek.
Don Skillings?
Richard Cormier.
Jeff Drew, recording secretary.
Melanie Weston, Kennebec Valley Council of Governments.
Denise Ducharme, Town Manager.
Randy Bliss.
John Martins.
Is there anybody else on Zoom?
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne?
Jay, board member.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Jay's on. Jay, Mary, and Cheyenne.
Cheyenne.
Yes.
Very good. Thanks, everyone. The minutes were previously distributed, so I'd ask for a motion to waive the minutes, the reading, and approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Very good, thanks. So unfinished business, follow-up, Simply Storage at Madison, financial responsibility, yeah?
Stand by, I'm waiting.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Simply Storage, we're still waiting for proof of financial responsibility. The Financial Loaning Institute stated that it was in the hands of the underwriter.
Okay, so that'll be
Tabled.
further. Novel Energy, the Candico project extension.
They are sending a check. As of our conversation with Ms. Rose today, Suzanne Rose of Candico, or of Novel Energy, will be sending a check of $12,000 some odd for their permit.
This is their application fee.
And with application fee. Application fee, for a conversation with Tim back when it was first started, because of the complications and everything that was going on with them. The application fee is doubled, it is $500. The fee for the postage was $5 and some odd cents, and the public hearing notice in the paper was like $199. Something like that. So it all adds up to over $12,000.
Well, that's up to what?
Over $12,000. And they received their invoice today, and she said that we will have a check within a week.
Okay, I would. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'm a little confused. Did we send them a bill?
Yes.
Not today. When they did their application, said the fee was $250. But we've since changed our fees to $500.
No.
Okay.
In their application, it's not in this one, but it's in the office. Tim had written down, because Tim was the recording secretary at the time, our town manager. He told them $500 for the application fee.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought you said it doubled.
It had doubled. It's normally $250. It doubled to $500.
That was part of the process.
That was part of the project.
Okay.
And it was on way back before dawn.
Fine. They agreed to it.
Yep.
So I guess I'm a little confused.
Don was confused.
Pardon me?
Don was confused.
How does that add up to 12,000? You got 500 for the application fee.
Right.
The 20 cents on there.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is 20 cents per square foot.
I forgot about that, sorry. Thank you. Good. I say we leave it right there until we get our check and we know that this is, and then we can answer their request.
Yeah, I would consider them complete also.
Right. And once they get the check, I'll give them their building permit. B-2024-32, I believe.
Now, complicating things again here.
I haven't issued it yet, but that's.
Then has it started?
As the clock started.
If you've never issued a building permit, they're not a year into their project.
Right, no, they won't do any work until.
But they don't
have
need an
building.
extension.
They will start, they won't need an extension. Because they'll be able to start, clearing.
This says Novel Energy Candico Project Extension.
Right, well,
If you haven't issued a permit, they couldn't have started, they
Right.
can't be needing an extension before we could start.
I see that word right there, extension, cross that out. Because they don't need an extension yet.
And so it's a year from when you issue the permit, correct?
Correct.
So we're not gonna address that issue at all.
We don't have to address extension.
So the letter that they've sent,
Right,
they did not need to send,
correct,
because we've never issued a permit.
correct. You're absolutely correct.
Where are they going?
On 201, just past the furniture stores, headed towards the
It's
golf
at the
course.
intersection of Kincaid Road and 201.
There's a backfield there. But, I mean, we gotta
They have been dragging their,
do better at issuing a permit, I mean, because they should be into needing an extension. But we never issued a permit, and we approved this a long time ago. Okay.
that was like a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So why are they dragging their feet?
They're
Is it on us?
claiming that they couldn't get materials from their suppliers.
But they couldn't have started without the permit, which still hasn't been there. Because we never collected a fee to complete the application.
So what, I don't know why.
We never
it's
seen
here
a
now.
bill
Right.
to them saying this is your, because that fee is a component of what's being built, square footage, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Therefore, we never sent a bill, to say this is your bill for this project, and or never issued a permit to start building.
So why did we wait?
They didn't.
And we did.
So that, they've had the application for a year and a half, and now they're just finally addressing it? Is that what you're saying? I'm just trying to get all caught up on the whole thing.
Yeah, let's see if we got a date on here.
So somebody's waiting on somebody, because if it's been a year and a half,
It wasn't
I
following.
mean, if I had a business and I was still waiting, I'm waiting to start something, I would give up. I mean, it's been a year and a half, I would have like said, no, see you, Madison, I'm going to Skowhegan.
Basically, it's been 6 months, not a year and a half, 6 months. In January was SR4.
And it was approved for them to do it.
And this is why, I don't know if you can hear me, this is why I brought it up the last meeting, that we need to revise the ordinance for site review to put a deadline in there so that we don't have something like this happening in the future, that we go well over a year before a project begins, that there needs to be a deadline set.
Right, and that's when I called them up and said, hey, something's gotta happen. And then they said, well, let's do a deadline, or not a deadline, let's do an extension. But they said, since,
But I think we need to add to our SR4, because until that approval, we don't have their final plan. That approval is the final plan where we can set a basis of cost. Because it's based on 20 cents a square foot, etc. We need to do a much more proficient job at saying, P.S., this is your bill for this particular project, and you have 2 weeks to pay us, or whatever it is, because we totally have dropped the ball for 6 months as a town and as a board in not making certain that that was issued to them. Because they're not just gonna write a blank check.
and if you recall, that started like a year and a half ago.
I don't recall.
Well, you were here.
But that's, it takes a while for this to
Right.
get through.
Right.
Yeah, it was a process because the lady that started all this ended up being fired. And it was months and months and months before anything was done on their side. And technically, they probably should have started over again.
Exactly, but we don't have that we don't have such a deadline in our ordinance.
Right. And if we put it there, the sooner the better.
Right.
Yep, for review at the next town meeting.
Okay. So,
Any other questions or comments on this?
Anybody done any research on this company?
yeah,
Okay,
I mean, either.
okay.
Okay. So we're moving on to ordinance review. Start with Denise, do you have any comments?
I think Melanie did a great job. And, I reviewed what she had put together from the last meeting. And I think it encapsulated all the comments and all the concerns that everybody had. Melanie, right? And, yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay. One question, Jeff, how do we know that we're working with the latest version? What was the change that we can identify in here that says this is the latest version that we've got?
Because it was the last one I got.
If you look at,
Melody can verify.
Yeah,
I can verify,
and I have all the stages of it right here.
yeah,
Okay,
I
just
also
need
do.
a way to identify that we got the latest version that we're
The
working
latest one that you're gonna have will say chapter 170, outpatient addiction treatment clinics. The title has changed.
with. The title change.
The title has changed.
So it needs to say chapter 170, outpatient addiction treatment clinics.
Yes. So that is the newest one.
Everybody got that?
Treatment center or clinics?
Clinics. Clinics.
Okay. All right, that's what I have.
Okay, good.
and the other thing is, if you look at section 170-2,
Yep.
the second
Yeah.
sentence should read, it previously read, licensed hospitals, pharmacies, veterinary clinics, and residential nursing facilities are not governed by this ordinance. It should currently read, under the new version, licensed hospitals, pharmacies, veterinary clinics, medical marijuana, cannabis retailers, and residential nursing facilities are not governed by this ordinance.
Okay.
So, I think that was the last change.
Yes. So this ordinance is pretty much a whole new draft compared to the last one. I based this on two other ordinances. One is Sabatis, I believe, and another, the Lincoln County, maybe Auburn. Specifically because the issue we're looking at here is outpatient addiction treatment centers. Obviously, when we were talking at the last meeting, there's a lot of things, including in the applicability, that we're not discussing. So I thought it made more sense to specifically highlight what we were focusing on here. Especially with the permitting and getting into that kind of issue.
Do any of those sample ordinances, do any of those sample ordinances say outpatient or inpatient addiction clinics?
Not the ones that I looked at, they specifically were referencing outpatient. There wasn't anything about inpatient. I think those are probably gonna have to be, I'm not sure if there's something with the state that would regulate that differently, if those would be classified as hospitals. But I can look into that.
Yeah, I would just, I don't, so we got caught kind of without having one of these, right?
Right.
So if we can prevent another getting caught without something.
Okay.
So if this could be / inpatient, which I don't know legally, I think you're right, I think there's probably a whole lot more rules. But if it should or shouldn't be on here,
I can definitely look into
it'd
that.
be a question.
I would actually have it written as outpatient addiction treatment clinics and centers, just because they could just probably get you on a technicality, that they can change their name to a treatment center, not a clinic. Right? I mean,
So the facility,
No, clinics and center.
yeah.
There's also one thing I specifically wanted to point out, a lot of the other ordinances that I looked at while creating this,
Right.
had, because I did leave it in, I believe if you go to, sorry, give me 1 second. If you go to section 170-4 application requirements, I specifically called out, leave it like noting in the application where any fences were. A lot of the other ordinances that I looked at specifically required any new facilities for outpatient addiction treatment centers or clinics to put up 6-foot fencing around the property.
Screening fence?
Screening fence. So that is something we could add back in. I did take that out, but I did want to bring that up to the board for discussion if you did want to require that.
Mark,
Yes.
I want to go back for just a moment to the applicability. Inpatient treatment centers are considered medical facilities. They would be under the purview of state law. So that should not be part of this. We are looking at outpatient, because we don't regulate hospitals or pharmacies. So that would be considered a hospital or a medical facility.
Thank you.
I mean, the outpatient's medical, but still, that's a whole different ballgame.
Thank you, Mary.
And Melanie, I couldn't quite hear what you were saying about reception's not real great.
Jeff,
Can you
mute
maybe-
yours.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. You said something about 170-4.
So if you see under 170-4, I left in for the application process that the applicant has to describe any existing screening or fencing. In the other ordinances that I looked at, they did require a minimum of 6-foot fencing and screening around any new property that would go up between the property and the neighboring properties. So that is something we can require, but I just brought that up to the board to see if that's something they'd be interested in.
What's your
I have
pleasure?
no opinion on that.
Mary said she had an opinion.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I know, Tech doesn't want 6 million.
It is.
I would, I would support fencing in a facility like that, but I also don't want to do it in a malicious way. I mean,
Right.
is it what's best for the facility and best for us as a town, or is there a need?
I would think it would help protect the patient's privacy.
Good point.
I would agree with that. I would say too, though, that I think you guys have very specifically cited this pretty well, that it is gonna be located pretty far away from most pretty populous areas of town, but I don't think it should hurt, but again.
Yeah, what is it, the business park area and then on 201, correct? Right.
Do you have any?
I would say make it optional, don't make it a requirement.
Any other opinions?
There's always that provision in the ordinance, the site review ordinance, which we have to go through anyway, I believe. This would be a part of the site review ordinance. So there's
We
already
could
that
ask-
provision in the site review ordinance. That we could call for that.
This would not be part of the site review
Would-
ordinance. No, because this would, unless they're asking to build a new facility
Or it's changing your-
or change a footprint, this would not be part of the site review.
For clarification, so just hypothetical, if there's an existing building in the business park and they were to purchase that building, they would not come before us because they would just meet these criteria, am I correct in what I'm saying, or
Mhm.
am I wrong?
That's the way I interpret it.
Well, if there's a change of use, they would,
Well, change of use, define change of use. What do you mean?
animal hospital, going clinic, nothing going clinic.
It's
That's
still
kind of a,
Still commercial.
It's, right,
It's still within, yeah.
it's, I don't look at that as a change of use. I think if you go from commercial to residential, that's a change of use. If you go from residential to commercial, that's a change of use. And you guys deal with the planning board stuff way more than I do. That's just my opinion.
I would also suggest this kind of conversation would definitely be pertinent to reviewing the site plan ordinance. And if you are very much concerned with changing uses, that would be kind of not necessarily a zoning question, but something for the site review ordinance to discuss when that would be triggered.
If they have plans to change the plumbing, change the building footprint, to modify the interior or things like that, all those types of things would have to come to Jeff as code enforcement for plumbing permits and building permits and whatnot. I think at that point, it comes under site review, but only at that point. If they take the building as is and use it as is, I don't think it comes to site review. So this ordinance is separate.
It's a standalone order.
It is.
Say that again, Mary?
I said if this is included, then it would have to come to the board under site review. This ordinance would force a site review for planning.
Not if they're buying it as is.
So what this would do is force anyone who's attempting to open a outpatient addiction treatment clinic or center within Madison to go through this application process, which would first go through the planning board. The planning board would then offer a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen would vote on it. That is the, essentially, that's the short of it.
And the only time it actually hits the site review is if they have substantial changes to the building or plumbing or land use.
If the Board of Selectmen approve of the application, then they will receive a permit for 1 year, and then it has to be renewed yearly. Within this, there's, again, the application process is pretty stringent. There's a bunch of things they have to go through. We can edit that, tinker with it, but again, it has to be legal.
I would remind the planning board that we're down to 5 months on our moratorium.
So
We still have to have a public hearing, then it goes to the select board, then they would have a public hearing, then it has to go to the town meeting.
All right. Well, then, at this point, based on time parameters, I would say I am reluctantly comfortable that this is the intent of this board to move this forward. I would put in the fence thing in here, because if we're not gonna address it on site review, then I think it should be fenced. So I would like to see that change made to this, and with the fence put in there, put back 6 foot, solid, in wood or something, not, chain link is not gonna provide that screening on
Right, so
both
no,
sides.
it's permeable, okay.
A solid type fence.
Now, what about a chain link with the slats in it?
Anything solid, we'll leave that to your judgment. It's a non-visibly through fence. If we put that in there, then I'm okay with moving this forward to the select board as my recommendation. So that'd be my motion, if there's a second.
I'll second it.
Motion.
a motion and a second. There is further discussion, because I've got a couple of changes I'd like to recommend.
Sure. So, Ron motion to accept with fence addition.
Yes,
Would that go
Solid
under
fence.
175?
6 foot.
So the fence just between the properties, we talk about the fence in the front as well.
I can't hear her.
Do you want
Fence
it-
between the properties or just, like, just between the properties or around the whole property she's asking?
including the roadside.
It's your motion. What do you want?
I think if we're doing this for patient safety and or public safety, it needs to be around the property.
I agree.
So,
About up on 201, where there's a 500 feet building.
Yeah.
I can see it in the business park for sure. Mary?
Yes, so I don't believe a fence, my opinion here, is that I don't believe there should be a fence in front. I can see a fence between properties for privacy. But, I mean, the frontage is 201 and the other one is the business park. So I'm not sure the fence is going to provide any additional privacy or security for that. That's my, so I don't know how you want to do this, so.
Upon reflection, I will pull out my fence requirement. I think in the areas that we're locating, I think we've addressed this. With the 500-foot parameter and it being in a business park with no residents around it, I feel like we're kind of protected in that regard. So I will pull that out of my motion if that's okay.
Second.
So noted.
Okay, what was that again? What's the motion now?
So the motion is to approve this and send it on to the board of selectmen. Correct?
Well,
At
to the public hearing.
With
To
change.
the public hearing.
What about the fence?
no,
It's out.
It's
No
out.
fence.
strike the
Oh,
fence.
no fence?
No
No
fence.
fence? Oh, okay.
Well, it can be brought up to them and say, you can have a fence if you like,
Oh,
but
sure.
anybody can, so.
Right.
A couple of points that I'd like to make. Under 170-4, number 5, site location map of a scale not greater than 100 feet. I would also, for the 201 properties, suggest that we show the buildings within 500 feet, or the buildings within a certain foot,
Got it.
or buildings that are slightly more than 500 feet, like 600 feet, 600.
Okay, that makes sense.
Jeff, or Mike, could you repeat that for me, please?
Can I just confirm, not just the adjoining properties, all buildings within a 500-foot radius?
The standard is, they cannot build within 500 feet of another building. So we need to show those things that they cannot build within 500 feet
Okay.
on the 100-foot permit.
Then, if that's the case, then 5A needs to be specifically addressed on the 201 corridor, not the business park. If you're gonna add the 500-foot buffer.
That's true. Yep. You still need to hear, Mary?
Yeah, so what was the deal with the 500 feet? Are you changing letter A to add 201, or what was, or the map has to show all buildings within 500 feet? I guess I couldn't hear you completely, Mark.
So this would be for the 201 corridor, and we're requiring that they not build the facility within 500 feet of any building, any structure. So we need to show on a 1 inch to 100-foot map any structure that's within, say, 600 feet, so that we can be sure that they're outside of that 500 foot.
Okay.
So 5C, with regards to the 201 corridor, all buildings on a 1 inch to 100-foot scale within 600 feet must be shown on the plan.
Okay.
So, are you adding that?
Well, let's see what other else changes, and I'll just say as much change.
Yep, one more. Under 170-6, B. It's the process under A. If the application is not deemed complete, the election shall be denied. If the application is deemed to be complete, is the last sentence in A. It will be reviewed by the planning board to complete a site review hearing on the proposed.
I apologize, that's a typo. Yes.
Okay, don't worry about it, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So that last
See, that's
sentence.
where I came up with site review.
Yes, I apologize.
That's okay, nope.
Thank you for catching that.
And it will also affect B, because B is upon completion of the site plan review. Here's where my corrections.
But that would apply if they're building a new building.
This is true. Yeah,
Yes, it would.
if it's necessary, then.
So I could,
Quantify it.
we could. I'm also not sure, I don't think we can force them to do site plan review.
If it's not new.
No,
If it's not a change of use.
no.
If it's not changed from residential to commercial. it's
So,
okay.
what if you say, if required,
If required.
the application is deemed to be complete?
Yeah.
If required, it will go to site plan, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So change verbiage, is that a word, verbiage?
Yes.
On 170-6, A and B.
I think you can leave B.
And just say if necessary after site plan review.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read C and then go back to B where I'm gonna suggest changes. So C says, once the town manager receives the recommendation from the planning board, the town manager shall, okay? So let's go back to B. And it says, the planning board will forward the application to the board of selectmen with a recommendation regarding the issuance of a license. I'd recommend that we forward it to the board of selectmen and the town manager.
But
That's it for me.
I'm good with that.
I agree with that, but really, it's the selectmen that will schedule the town meeting, not the town manager. She doesn't schedule public hearings, per se. The selectmen say, we're gonna have this public meeting.
Okay.
Okay, then,
That would correct that in C too.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll check that.
or change town manager to the board of selectmen.
yes.
The
So,
select board.
select board. So my motion would include Mark's changes, please.
Is there anything else that anyone has seen, or?
Was that a second, Robin?
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm good with everything else. Thank you, that's nice.
It's good work.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? And the motion is to approve this with changes and schedule a
Move on. Move it on.
move on.
Moving it on would be scheduling the public hearing.
Okay.
The
And
next,
that's for here, not for the selectmen.
correct.
Okay.
I need clarification on that one. What's that mean for here?
Planning board.
So it's gotta come back here?
We have to do a public meeting for the planning board, then that public meeting moves it to the selectmen, and then they have to do a public meeting.
After
Okay.
they do their work.
After they do their work, change whatever they want.
Two, actually.
Yes.
Yeah,
So the
so,
public hearing will be the 23rd of July.
no votes on that day. It's just to hear.
Public
It's
comment.
just a public
Okay.
comment, yeah.
Well, okay, if there's no votes on that day, then does it come back to the planning board after the public hearing to get voted to recommend to go to the select board?
Select board.
You guys will do
We
it.
do that, yeah, after the public hearing. We
Right,
take their consideration, any changes,
yep,
and then move it to the selectmen to do, this is the final, here you go.
yep.
Right, then they.
Right, but
do
does
a
that take
public
another
hearing.
meeting, is what I'm asking, or is that on this?
That night.
All right, so,
I mean, unless we
to
have-
Mr. Martin's question, there is a vote that night.
Planning,
To move it, right,
Yeah.
to move it forward.
Yeah,
unless we have a boatload ton of change. I mean, if there's 100 people sitting in here and
yeah.
they come up with some logic that we missed,
Yeah.
Sure,
Right.
we're gonna have to re-discuss all that.
Mhm.
agreed.
But normal, moving on,
And then it goes to the select board at that point, and they're gonna review it as you guys are doing it, and then they're gonna move it forward to a public vote.
Public hearing, yeah.
and then a town meeting.
Yeah, so it sounds like, things gotta get moving here,
Yep.
like seriously. And that was fantastic, I completely, agree. Everything looks really good what you did there, good job. Yeah.
I should be able to have revisions for you by tomorrow, so we can get that out.
Thank you.
And you need that version 7 days before, so that it can be published?
Should be mentioned.
7 days before.
I'll make sure to add a date underneath, like you said, so we can keep track of the latest versions.
Perfect. 7:23, Jeff,
Yes, ma'am.
what time, is that 6:30?
6:30.
And that's the public hearing on this, is that correct?
That is correct.
I'll plan to do that in case there's.
So if everything goes smooth, is there any way that this can make the September 7th ballot?
I might be pushing that.
We wouldn't
It's
have,
really
a-
tight.
well, we wouldn't, is there a town meeting on September 7th?
There's not a town meeting on September 7th, there's a recall election on September 5th.
That has to be just that though. Nothing
Well-
else can go on, correct?
The recall election is a yes or no question on the recall of the existing road commissioner. And if that passes, also on that same ballot will be other people that want to run for road commissioner, so that if the recall is in the affirmative, then a new road commissioner is elected at the same time. And we're gonna add a third question to that, that should the road commissioner position be appointed as opposed to elected at the end of this term?
Okay, so that further just says that everything that's on that ballot has to do with the road commissioner.
That's
period.
all the ballot is about.
Or can we add another issue?
No,
That has to be.
Separate?
no, it has to be
Be
separate. and
separate.
se- Because it's not a ballot issue for this ordinance, it's a town meeting issue.
Okay.
So we
there
will
be-
have to call a special
So
town
the
meeting.
town meeting will, yeah, you'll vote on the town meeting.
Yes. So if we can, I mean, I think you guys have 2 or 3 other ordinances that you're looking at. If we can get one town meeting to look at all of these ordinances, that would be ideal.
If I could get an idea of what ordinances you guys would like to have revised, I could get a jump on those.
We should probably pull on,
We should.
and then that's discussion.
Let's hope it doesn't hold this up though, the revisions of the other ordinances.
No,
Let's
this,
hope that it wouldn't like.
This has to.
This is gonna be, I feel anyway, in my opinion, this has gotta be priority.
Yes.
It is.
Yes,
this
sir.
has to move forward.
Oh, Mary has her hand raised.
Yep, Mary.
Yes, there was a motion on this, but I didn't hear of any vote.
We haven't voted yet. Thank you very
Start
much.
discussion.
Yeah, has discussion,
Okay,
is discussion satisfied? Any other? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, indicate by raising your hand, and Jay and Mary, you can indicate by voice.
aye.
Aye.
Very good, it's unanimous, five members voted. Thanks, everyone. We will get to the other ordinances after we look at new business.
Okay, so the new business didn't show up,
Okay?
so that will be pending. Unless you want to.
No? That's fine. So any other business from the court board? This would be where we discuss. Mayor?
I would like to recommend that the next ordinance that you look at is chapter 180, the marijuana or drugs and drug paraphernalia ordinance, which the town also voted to reword to include, to opt in for medical retail sales. So, however that needs to be done, I think that one is a fairly much easier one to manage than this one. The town people voted in favor of opting in for medical retail sales, and our current ordinance 180 does currently prohibits all retail sales.
Okay. Is that something you could work out for us, Melanie?
Yeah, that should be, I think, relatively simple.
Great. Thank you.
Again, our next meeting is next August?
No, the 23rd of July,
23rd of July.
2 weeks from today.
Got it. I can try to have a draft on that one by then.
Other ordinances we'd like to consider?
It seems like everyone's, not everyone, but it seems like there's been a discussion about the site plan review ordinance. Is that one that
This is true.
I could at least take a look at it and provide some suggestions, if not another draft, but at least some notes, if anyone would like that for August's meeting?
That'd be wonderful.
Mary, do you have any ordinances that you would like to see reviewed?
Again, just the site review, and I want to come back to well, we also have a sign ordinance that needs to move forward, so we're done with that. But question about the chapter 180, so we want to include the opt-in for medical, but again, we're not dealing with recreational, right? We're still, that's an opt-in, right?
Right, it's,
Or are we totally prohibiting recreational sales for Madison?
chapter 180 currently prohibits all sales for Madison, and we want to continue to prohibit recreational sales, but allow or
Okay.
opt in to allow medical retail sales.
Okay. In that ordinance, can we also restrict where those stores would be?
That would be perfect. And that, I think we talked about that and adding some kind of like a grandfather clause to,
And a number, like we could put in no
Right.
more than X number.
The sunset clause.
yeah, that's the grandfather sunset clause, and then the quantity. You can set the
Right.
quantity as you revisit that ordinance.
Okay, great. 'Cause I was just, the other day I was driving through Skowhegan and I was thinking, wow, you know what? Skowhegan is doing such a wonderful job promoting their community and the downtown is being rehabilitated. And you drive through and there's not a single marijuana store. If you go to Madison and there's 4 or 5 of them, aren't there right there on
On Main Street.
right downtown, and it's like, gosh, go to Madison, that's our big thing, we're selling marijuana, and I think we're giving a bad, I'm sorry, I just think that it's an unfavorable, impression of Madison that that people may come away with as they drive through with all medical marijuana stores.
I don't like it. I think it's
Yeah.
disgusting, honestly. I don't mind if you wanna sell it, but when we have them all right down Main Street, you might as well just put up the weed flag and say, we are the pot capital of Maine.
Somerset County. Oh, Maine.
So,
Skowhegan does have one store, it's on 201.
yeah. But, I mean, when you have, how many do we have in this town right now?
Six.
Never mind. Skowhegan doesn't have one on 201. That, are you talking
On
about
Waterville Road.
on the
Yeah,
Waterville
Waterville
Road?
Road. Yeah, they do,
Over by the
right past
Dragon.
Quinn's.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that is, again, that ordinance was written when I was there, and it is well defined as to where it can be and where it can't be.
Right.
It's well defined as to where it can't be.
Okay.
I agree with you, Mary, that we need to look at restrictions.
Yes. So you add the opt-in and add restrictions.
Do we want to add, is there already a licensing process in place for medical marijuana here in town, or is
Through
that something?
OCP there is.
Yeah, but there should be something with the town, that they need to come to the town and get approval from the town. So yes,
Is that something
Yes.
similar to what I did with the outpatient substance facilities?
yes.
Is that something you want me to add into this
Probably not to the same
No.
ordinance? Or
depth.
same
but-
depth?
Same
Okay.
depth, but, yeah.
So approval by the select board, they have to come to the select board to get a license, a town license or a business license.
Yes,
I would think it would need to be annually renewed like the bond does.
yep,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
yes.
Are they going, I guess the select board would establish a fee for that annually.
Okay, so we're looking at reviewing chapter 180 and site review, and pushing the sign ordinance along.
Is there a draft of the sign ordinance anywhere?
I think
There's
Jeff had,
one on,
Jeff will have to-
The select board's already approved it, they just have to.
oh,
To,
that's right, I have it. Yeah,
so.
I will send it
not
to
my
you.
copy. Okay. Perfect, so I will have a draft of chapter 180 for you next month, or on the 23rd, and then I will plan to have one on site review for August.
First meeting in August.
Yes.
Great. Okay, no others?
Wonderful.
Hearing none?
I'm sorry.
Any other ordinances you want?
I know in Solon, they're doing a,
Okay. Yeah.
Solon, they're doing what? In Solon, they went to public hearing already on a building ordinance, and it defines campers. People are living in their campers in town, and the way it's worded will be something like, between April and October, within a 60-day period. Not a 60-day period, within 60 days between April and October, they would have to have some sort of septic agreement for pumping out their septic, or some way of getting rid of their waste. Because it's becoming a problem with people living in their campers.
So they just dump it?
Some are just dumping it. And we
Right.
have problems with that right here in Madison. People are living in their campers.
I think we can address it to these others, and then, at least.
But I will, once we get we'll not only be able to see that, I forget, was it Jessica? Is the one working on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, she told me today she wanted to pester you about something or so on, so maybe tonight.
Okay.
That's not a bad idea. I can get a copy of that from her and take a look at it.
Very good. Next agenda item is board member concerns. Robin?
It was, an email was sent about a joint meeting with the select board on September 5th. Is that still on? Mary sent it to us.
Who sent it to you?
Mary.
Mary did.
It's not September 5th, well, I don't know, I can't remember the date. September 5th is actually the election day for the recall.
That's what I
Um,
thought.
I may have given Mary that date, and if, it hasn't been finalized. What we're looking to do is have a strategic plan type of a meeting, so that the select board and the planning board can meet together with me and Jeff and Melanie and whoever else. It would be an open meeting, but it would be a meeting where we can basically take as much time during the day as we need to set priorities and decide where we want to go with things. And that might be a good time also to discover or discuss other ordinances that need revision, and so.
But we don't have a date.
Not yet.
Okay. Mary's probably.
So
Right.
it was, the 4th was the election, and then the 5th was the meeting, the joint meeting, but
Yeah,
again, that was just tentative.
Yeah.
So you don't have you don't have a date then yet?
no, the date for the election actually got set for the 5th at this point.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know. We might still be able to make it work, or maybe we can do the 6th, which is a Friday. You know, we just have to find some place that's gonna be, amenable to everybody meeting together, so. Much like the advisory board and the select board meet at budget time.
Will this be an evening meeting or during the day?
It would probably be during the day, because I imagine it's gonna take, I would think it's gonna take a good 4 to 6 hours to have a complete work session on this.
Okay, excellent.
Is that it?
Except for those who work during the day.
Done? Are we good? Any other?
I'm all set right now, yeah, I mean, I'm just getting my feet wet, but.
Sounds good. Any concerns, Mary?
I do not.
Excellent. And Jay?
I'm all set.
Okay. Jeff?
I said my piece.
Good. Melanie?
I'm just sorry I didn't bring the owl, I promise to bring it next time.
No, worries.
What
We're
is
good
it?
to
We'll
have
have
our
our
own
own.
concerns. So, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Good meeting.
Thank you. Melanie, good
Thank you,
work.
Mark. Nice to meet you.
George? Anytime, Mary.
Have a fun vacation.